Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you come back often. Hope you tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters for evening prayer. Father Walters?
I'm going to do something a little different tonight. We all are aware that Monday is Memorial Day, a national holiday. We've been remembering, of course, on Memorial Day, all of our service people and others who have died in service of their country. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was growing up, my dad called it Decoration Day. And we actually visited many of the graves of our relatives and friends. Given the fact that many model railroaders has served in armed forces, and perhaps many of us have been serving in the armed forces as well, at least many of us have parents and grandparents who served in World War II or Korea. As well, we need to remember those of our modelers who certainly helped us and inspired us somewhere along the way. So I'm going to ask that we take a moment or two to remember a member of our family, member of a club, or a service person who has died, and we'll go on from there. Oh God, it is good for us to remember those who have died. It gives us confidence in the love that you have shown to each of us in giving us life. We ask you to remember those who have died, especially those whom we have known and remembered this evening. Give them eternal life in your love. We ask this with confidence and trust in you. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father Ron. I really do appreciate that. Next, I want to talk about Walters Company. Walters, as you know, is going to be doing a build-along with Gary Shergold, MMR. Gary is going to take one of their plastic kits, one of their cornerstone model company houses, and instead of it coming out as a plastic model, he's going to have it come out as if it was all wood structure with a masonry foundation. And I think you'll be absolutely amazed at what he is accomplishing. And Gary will be doing that starting September the 6th. Well, in order to get ready for that, Walters has agreed to give one of these models as a door prize tonight. The winner has to be present. This is an HO kit, by the way. Has to be present on the show tonight, and we'll be doing it toward the end of the show, actually awarding the prize and naming the winner. So thank you so much for coming, and thank Walters so much for their donation of the kit for the door prize tonight. We really do appreciate it, and when your name is called, you're going to need to verify your presence by sending me an email. And my email is Jim Kello, JimKellow at newtracksmodeling.com. And if you forget it between now and the time we award the prize, just ask at that point, and I'll be glad to give it to you again. I apologize for my phone. But I do want to thank so much Walters for doing this, because this is really something that's special, and I really do appreciate it. And I hope that you'll think about buying one of these kits if you're interested in building along with Gary when he shows you how to actually take his kit and make it appear as if it's a solid wood kit. And that'll start September the 6th. Another, we normally at this point, we have a slide that we show. We're asking for volunteers. We're asking for donations through our Patreon account and so forth. And I hope that you see your way through to either provide volunteer help or some funding for our shows. Again, if you'd like to volunteer, please send me an email. And I do appreciate anyone that has a little time that they can donate to us. The build-alongs that are coming up are all on our website. And you can go to our website and find out when each one of them is going to start and so forth. We have a new segment of our shows that we're going to be starting in August with Dennis Brennan. Dennis graduated from Rutgers with a degree in art. And he owns a model railroad company called Brennan's Model Railroading. And Dennis is going to start doing a monthly segment on modeling as art. And he's going to go into some fairly good details about it and I think open our eyes as far as what our models truly represent. And are they truly pieces of art, which I feel that many of them are. So I think that's going to be interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that. And as I say, it'll start this August. The MyBuild is tonight, and I'll turn this over to Chris a little later in the show, and he'll be talking about the June MyBuild and how it's going to be a special one with an emphasis on water. So I'll let him follow up on that in a few minutes. You heard Father Ron Walters earlier in his prayer discuss remembering the model railroaders that have gone before us. We're going to include a page on our website to try to remember those model railroaders who have passed away. And everybody that wants to can send in a name of a modeler who is no longer here that he'd like to see included on our website page. And they need to send it to Steve Sherrill. Steve has an email address. And in the future, we'll try to put it on a slide so that you can actually see it and respond to it. It's Steve, period, Sherrill, SHERRILL, at newtracksmodeling.com, newtracksmodeling.com. And if you'll send Steve an email with the name of the person that you'd like to remember and have included on the webpage, then he'll make sure that it's included on there. We're working on getting the webpage up now, and if it's not up right this minute, it will be very shortly. So I'm looking forward to that because I really think that's going to be something that's important for all of us in the future. We're also going to start a once a month show later this summer, where 1 week we're going to talk about what's happening in O scale, 1 week in S scale, 1 week in HO, and 1 week in M. Well, I have a person, Dave Schultz, is going to talk about the O scale. Tim Hubner is going to deal with the S scale. Clem Harris is going to do the N scale, I believe. But I don't have anybody that has volunteered to do the HO section of it. So if you're interested in doing that and talking about once a month for 15 minutes about what's happening in O scale or what you see happening in O scale or what another modeler in O scale is doing that you have as a guest on the show, please let me know. My email is jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com. Well, with that said, let me turn to start the show here and go to Mike Tylick. And Mike, thank you so much for doing this evening. I really do appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. It's nice to see you again and nice to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. And now you're going to miss next week and then come back the following week, right?
It's good to take a week off, and
Yep.
if they like me, they'll miss me. Like P.T. Barnum said, always leave them wanting more, you know. So I hope they want some more, but I'm happy to be here tonight, and let's do, we'll go, okay?
Yes, sir.
And I guess, hopefully you have the photos, because I don't.
I think we do.
Yeah, I hope you do. I sent them the other, well,
Yeah. There we go.
okay, well, that's good. You do have them. So I think tonight I'm going to talk about T-track modules, which is kind of a misnomer because it's actually N scale. But for some reason, it's called T-track, I think, because it's tabletop. And they're very nice modules. I was always shied away from module groups just because of the complexity of setting up module railroads that I've seen and never seen worth the work. But these are little tabletop things. They're 1 by 2 feet. They're about as heavy as a cafeteria tray. And you put them on the table and plug them together. Now, in this picture, we have a kit, and it's worth buying the kit because the parts have to be very precisely cut, because at the very ends of the track are those little Kato plugs. And you can build it yourself, but it's much easier to buy the kit and cheaper. One thing that's happened, I don't want to dwell on the box too much, but the boxes are made with birch plywood, which is becoming difficult to get now with the Russian war. Evidently, the plywood comes from Russia, or came from Russia, but you can still get kits. Here's the beginnings of one of the kits, one of the modules I started building. I like this particular box because you notice the tabletop is recessed an inch. That actually gives you some depth below the track, which is one thing I never did like about modules, having the flat top. It just seemed you always tried to somehow get below it. And I cut out a little, but let's go on to the next slide because I don't want to dwell with pictures. And here we go. This is some construction of one of the modules. You can see how I kind of build them up because there is a tabletop. This one did have the top on front. By the way, the modules go together very easily. And I tried to somehow break up the box. So I cut out a little recess in the foreground, and there's a culvert, there's track. The roads are falling in place. I like to build up depth, and you don't have much room, so I just kind of use pieces of foam core, pieces of whatever. That cobblestone road is some old castings. They were made by a company called Linker, and I got those many, many, many years ago, and I still use them now. This particular theme is with the Little Roadie group of the NMRA, and it's supposed to be the Rhode Island Railroad. They call it the Rhode Island and Old Colony. And my experience on the shoreline going through New Haven, the Amtrak line, it's like a double track line that just cuts a path through the environment. It's straight and it's fast, and it just kind of divides everything in half. And luckily, this is all pre-electric, but this shows some of the building on and some of the painting. And let's go on to more where we could see some things that are fun. Let's see what we have in the next picture. Okay, here's one of the finished modules. That's actually the one that I had. And I started doing this because I had those building kits in the back. I had a lot of little extra parts and extra kits, and I wanted to use them up. The theater, I always wanted to make a theater. When I was in high school, I had the good fortune to work in a movie theater, and I think I worked, and turns out to have been a dying breed, the old neighborhood theater where everybody went once a week to see the movie. If you went on Tuesday night, they gave away dishes. And I wanted to kind of make the really decrepit mill towns that surround Providence. I used to take the train from Rhode Island to New York frequently when I was in school. And just about time I was sitting down, you'd be going through these mill towns that were just, they were just kind of hopeless, poor places. And I always kind of liked that. I always kind of liked the squalor, but people live there, and there's the track. I did buy some Engage equipment. That was the only New Haven engine I could find, and I found some cars. I made some water. Water I just pour with polyurethane. I do that pretty simply. And if you do any water casting, no matter how tight you think you've made the seal, it always leaks on me. So I always put a newspaper underneath. And I was using super trees. This is the first time I've really used them, and they photograph beautifully. But anyway, this is all Engage, and it's kind of fun because I haven't done Engage for a long time. I kind of started the hobby as an adult in Engage and migrated to HO, the larger scales. And it's fun to do something different, and you can do big things in a small space. By the way, the sky in the back is a real sky. You know, I use Photoshop extensively to do that. It's not the backdrop. If it wasn't for that, you'd be seeing my room. But anyway, let's go on to the next slide. I'm not sure too much to talk. I wanted to show one construction piece, and I made one of these fireproof, well, you know, factory buildings. Now they look like they're difficult to make, but they're really not. You just get a bunch of styrene strips, and the little inset shows how you just glue strips together. You cut pieces on a chopper or miter saw or table saw, and you just keep gluing them and adding lamination, and you add enough, and you very simply get a building. One nice thing about Engage is you don't need a lot of detail. Some of them have little decorative parts on the panels below the windows. I probably could have taken a pencil and drawn some in, but this is far back and it's small. And don't forget, this is a module, so that would be about 2 feet from the audience in real life. The windows are just printed on acetate. I took a piece of overhead projector, you know, material, and just printed it with my printer. And that's just to figured I'd show you a little construction article. Construction doesn't have to be fast. One thing I like about Engage, and I may offend someone, is I make what I call sketch models. You can make them quickly. They don't need a lot of detail. You can make very large buildings rather than buildings that are very compressed. And it's kind of a whole change from half-inch scale and quarter-inch scale and things like that. And why don't we go on to the next one? Let's see what they have there. Okay, this is part of the mills. This was the last large module I built. I built the more recent one, but the pictures are still in the camera. And this area is known as Onlyville. It's a kind of a suburb of Providence. And what happened was, first of all, at the big picture is my mill. Now, it's called Atlantic Mills. The big gray mill is a bar mill's one kit that I cut up to make an old wooden mill. And if you look at these complexes, they just kind of grew and buildings added to them. And there was a clinic once about unusual mill construction. And I guess what you could take away from them is, if you could think of it, it was built somewhere by somebody. One thing I've always liked, the cutaway buildings. So I have my little cutaway building in the front. It's sort of supposed to be a powerhouse. That's actually a part of an HO gauge kit, but it had the big windows, so I can kind of get away with it. And I didn't have to do the dynamos or anything. But I've always liked the idea of running out of room in the front. I used that last time. I've gotten to use that on just about every layout I've built has something cut away. Now the one on the left is kind of interesting. There really was a Harris Lumber, and that was always my indication. It was a big lumber yard. It's all gone now, and it was all green with yellow signs all over the place. And that was always my indication when past that to start getting up and packing up my suitcase and gliding up to get off the train, because the trains, I rode on to New Haven during the last days of New Haven, but even then they stopped, dropped people off, and left in a hurry. It was really quite an elaborate passenger operation, even in its dying years. And it was a fun ride. I've liked riding on the Northeast Corridor, but those are some of the scenes. Now, one thing I did on purpose, I believe that modular railroad is not a good place to do much switching operation because you're with the public and the public's confusing and there's all sorts of things like that. And also Engage, I find, is difficult to switch in. It's difficult to uncouple the cars. It's difficult to do things. So I purposely, I don't know if you can see in the picture, I purposely glued some vehicles across the road and just glued the switch shut so you don't even have to think about using it. But anyway, though that's one module. I call that Onlyville. And Onlyville is a real place, but here's a close-up of that. That unfortunately that module was difficult to photograph, but I scratch built a little bridge in the back, and this is a power canal. See, mills always, the old New England mills, maybe everywhere, used water power at one point, and the canals are still there. So I had a water thing, the plate gird is scratch built. Again, that's almost a sketch model too, but that's a finished area. I tend to use lots of foliage. That's that particular module. Now let's see what's next. Okay, this is another module. This one is called Great Swamp. As you go further out of Providence, there's this big swampy area in kind of southern Rhode Island. It's called Great Swamp, and there are some great locations for taking real rail fan photos even today. And I wanted to do something kind of desolate. So there's another water course with a little culvert. I know it's a plastic arch. I believe it's from Atlas. I kind of have saved junk from not quite my childhood, but certainly the time I graduated college. And that was a little piece I liberated. Just kind of made an embankment. The building in the corner is a Bar Mills kit. The only engine I found that excuse me, that was landed from New Haven was that 44 tonner. And I never really planned on running them. So I have that engine. I did get some nice cars. The Katie cars, I guess Katie calls them micro trains. They photograph quite well. And let's see what else we have. I have a feeling I'm going really fast. We ran out of pictures, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I guess I can ad lib for a few minutes. And does anyone have any questions or anything? But I think T-Track's fun. And one thing the Rhode Island group has done that is a nice idea. It's a very portable modular system. Like I joke, it's like carrying around the lunch tray, cafeteria tray, and I eat a lot, so it weighs less than if I went to a cafeteria. And they plug them together on tables, and there's plugs in back. And you can set up a pretty good size layout in an hour. And they are dependable if you limit yourself to running trains, which is really what the people at the places want to see. And they'll set them up in various libraries, maybe every couple of months in Rhode Island. And it's usually Saturday morning, and they always get lots of people. Mothers and fathers bring the children, and the libraries put in their events. And it's kind of a nice way to show people model railroading. It's kind of
somebody told me that they were so easy to set up that you could just pull some tables together and just put them right on top of the tables and hook them up.
Just pop them on top. The connectors on the end, they use that Cato, I think it's called Unitrack. And the plugs on the track hold them together.
Yeah.
And then there's a plug in the back. And it's something that you can set up and be very portable, because you can set this up you can set up a good size layout in an hour or so. And you can rip it down in about 20 minutes. I know many module groups take a whole day or longer to set the modules up. The kits, by the way, there is a T-Track website, okay? And kits are made by different manufacturers. They're becoming more difficult to find. Like I said, the Russians took care of that too,
Well, it's interesting to see it. I've heard about them, and people have told me about them and suggested I try one. I never have, but they seem so easy to transport, not like the old modules that I used to have to lug around. I mean, it took two of us sometimes just to lift the things out of the car or truck.
Well, they come in three sizes. There's like a one. They're basically, now these are nominal measurements. All right. Basically they're a foot deep. There's a 1 foot length, a 2 foot length, and a 3 foot length. So I see you found the webpage. And you could make them, and then you the 3 lengths. And they plug together, and it's the track, it tells you exactly what track to use. Like if you buy the right Cato Unitrack pieces, they plug together. There's a special plug they put in back. And the little roadie group in the NMRA has quite an enormous setup of that. In fact, Little Roadie's funny because it's the Rhode Island division, and one of the nicknames from Rhode Island is Little Roadie. Now it's fitting that Little Roadie has little trains. But interesting, they have another modular group which is O scale, but they don't have an HO one. So I think that's kind of fun.
Mike, from what I saw, the 1 foot ones, it's almost like you're taking on building a diorama.
Well, they are dioramas. You know, I have a 1 foot one. The pictures are in the camera. When I take pictures, I like to leave them for a month or 2 before I edit them.
Yeah.
Because then I see them kind of fresh. That one was based on, and this is fun, if a recent, and I guess I'm plugging a friend, but Bar Mills recently came up with a garage kit. They call it the Downtown Garage. And it's at least a very close copy of one of my favorite buildings from George Selyers's layout. So I got one and then scaled, and I built it, and then I had to do something with it. So I built another diorama. That's supposed to be Route 1 in Rhode Island. You know, I lived in Rhode Island for about 5 years. You know, I went to college there, and I lived there for most of a year afterwards. And so I guess every state is nice, but I like Rhode Island.
Well, thanks so much. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing more and more. You know, it's an easy thing to do. I don't know when I run out of time, or you'd have to tell me to keep quiet. But one of the people, Steve Erickson, one of the group, he basically does everybody a favor and takes all their modules.
Yeah.
So you don't have to store them in the house, and he sets them up in his basement, and he runs them like a little layout down his basement. You know, and the nice thing about them is I haven't encountered any automobile that's too small to carry one of those.
One of the things that I like about it, you don't have to worry about legs or anything like that. And
No, you just use tables.
Yeah,
They have little levelers, and there's a whole history in the website about how it was started.
Huh.
You know, I think it was like many things. I think it started in California.
Well, I tell you, next time you're on in 2 weeks, if you think about it, you've got a picture of that little diorama that you built with the Bar Mills kit. I'd love to see it.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Now you give me some incentive. I'll pull it off the camera and I'll mail it to you.
Thanks so much, Mike. I really appreciate it.
So one thing, I'll get off the sec. One thing I like doing is I like leaving pictures for weeks or months before I look at them.
Yeah.
That way they're kind of fresh again.
Yeah.
And everything I think is so wonderful is never as good as I remember it. But thank you for having me, Jim.
Thank you so much, Mike. Anybody have any questions for Mike? Mike, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
That either means nobody cared or I spoke really well. I said
you covered it so well.
Well, I don't know. It's a small subject to cover. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mike. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you too, Jim. Take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. Well, now I want to turn to Martin Brechbiel, who is building an old kit or new kit or some kit of a trolley car that LaBelle makes. So, Martin, welcome.
Yeah, some kit. Some kind of kit. There you are.
There
Okay.
you go.
Right. Okay, let's see if we can share the screen here without screwing it up too badly. There we go. Come on. Where'd it go? Over here. Whoop, there we are. It's always good to start at the beginning. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused. So part 2, which means last week was part 1. So you don't, if I lose you right away, you're going to have to go back to YouTube or wherever this is stored from last week and figure out how I got you lost. But Here's where we stopped last week in the instructions. We got as far as page 2, panel number 3 of the instructions. So we're going to build the doors. There's 4 doors. The one in red, yeah. Don't look for that one. That's the combine door. It's not in the kit. You will go absolutely bonkers if you try to look for something that doesn't exist in the box. Don't let that be a problem. Just find the regular doors. Follow the instructions on this actually, and you close off this panel down the bottom half of the door. It's actually the bottom third, really. But you got to do that carefully when you close it off. You got to leave this section here to clear the floor. They give you a measurement. Somewhere on here, there's a measurement of how far to leave it. 330 seconds. That's actually kind of important because you need to clear the floor when that door gets glued, or the door gets glued to the side unit gets glued to the floor, and if it isn't in the right place, the door is not going to glue flat. So that's the first thing on that. This gets removed. If you go look at the pictures on the isometric drawings, this middle piece here, just snip that out. I just use number 10 scalpel and clean it up clean and flush. Comes off easily enough. This excess length of trim of siding, just take a straight blade to it. Number 11 blade, number 11 scalpel. That comes off. You don't need it. Here's the big kicker though. That warping just didn't clean up. So I had to put a little piece of wood here and here. And this is, I don't know what size, 16th inch box brass, which was glued to that with goo and CA mixed together and clamped and left overnight just to make sure. And that takes care of most of the warp. And it just stuck here down at the ends. So it's kind of out of the way. It doesn't look too, it's not too obtrusive. It's not in the way of anything that's going to get glued in here later. That's really important to the kit. I'm going to glue stuff in there later, but it's not important stuff. Well, it depends who you are. I don't think it's important, but you know. Okay, so there was some missing scribe siding from last week. That I replaced by using some HO 1x stock underlayment and then put HO 1x3s on top of that. So that's a lot of little pieces of 1x3. No, I did not count them. I don't care how many it was. I was just pleased that it was done. And it doesn't look too terribly bad. And after you put a coat of paint on it, only I'll know, and everybody who actually watches this will know. So, and you can see this is where those doors go. The centerpiece is out. It actually gets glued up a little higher than you think because there's a piece of flooring that goes in here and a step eventually goes in there. And also this excess siding has not been trimmed off yet. So we're going to move right along here. Okay, so now we got to build up the ends. Loads and loads of fun building up the ends. I hate building trolley car ends, but you know, they are what they are. You got to build them piece by piece in a LaBelle kit. They don't come prefab like the old ICC Indianapolis Car Company made 3 or 4 different types of trolley car ends, one-piece styrene. Boy, those, you really get spoiled using those, or the one-piece white metal castings, or even brass ones. Okay, so in the box, in the bag, you have 4 of these pieces, you have 2 of these pieces. They get glued together. That makes the end. Save the one that isn't, the 2 that aren't glued go on top. That ties the sides together to the floor. Now you have a box. It's pretty simple. Okay. Yeah, don't look for the door sill and the notch and the bumper and blah, 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 because that's the combine door. You don't have it. It's not there. This is the fun thing about LaBelle kit instructions. Half the instruction is for the other car or 2 other cars. So you have to be kind of careful not to get too distracted by parts in the picture that have nothing to do with what you're building. There's some quarter round pieces that go framing around the doors. We're going to come back to those a little later, but it's nice to have little quarter round wood because it really makes nice trim work around doorways and stuff. I don't know where you buy it. I guess you can still buy it from Northeastern, but I don't know any other place to buy it. The last time I saw it in a hobby shop, I bought their entire stock of every size they had. I just walked out with everything because I didn't know where I'd ever find it again. So I assume still at Northeastern makes it, but that's really useful for trim work and turning corners on things, on wooden cars. Okay, so we glue these things up. This is the end bumper end of the car. These are these formers for the ends. Very useful thing to do. Find the center, draw a center line on both pieces. Get them aligned so you get it straight and even. Because if you don't have it straight and even, you're going to have a crooked trolley when you put the ends together with the sides and the floor. So this is something I actually spent a little bit of time on, making sure it's properly aligned. Actually measure things, get out your millimeter ruler or your 1/32 divided ruler if you don't like the metric system. Whichever works for you, find the middle, get them aligned together, some wood glue and some clamps, come back tomorrow. Don't mess around getting these offset a little bit because fixing it later is painful. And unless you really enjoy pain, try to avoid doing that. Okay, so you assemble the ends. This is upside down onto the floor blank, but you can see there's where the door, this little hole fits here, actually goes in here, aligns all nicely. That's where the steps go. This door goes right here across this. This is upside down, of course. This is gluing end grain. Not easy to do with any kind of strength. My trick for this is, again, a smear of goo on both ends, put it together, take it apart, let it almost dry, put some medium viscosity CA all over it, slap it back together on a glass or a really, really, really flat surface that you can get it back off of later. Weight it down, keeping it really tight together. You're not going to get it apart later, probably, unless you use a scalpel or a razor saw. But this works well, and it's fairly strong. So now you have your base, and you can see this little raised platform on each end. Nicely centered. So now you have something to build on top of, as opposed to just pieces flying around. And you have two sides. So you got the doors on these, and you've got this gap down here below. You need this gap down here below because that's what gets glued to the sides or to the base on the floor. We're going to come back to all this extra stuff that I've added here in a little bit. So there's your parts. There's the two sides, your whole floor. Let's start putting it together. Well, I can't muck around with it. I'm not happy unless I do muck around with it. It's kind of naked on the inside. It's got lots of windows. So I'll probably put some sort of interior in this, and as opposed to just having plain boring wood. We're going to add some flooring. So this is 1/32 thick, 3/32 scribe siding. I'll talk about what this is, I think, on a slide or two later. But just glue this in here. And I started at the door and at this end platform, which is raised. I figured I'm not going to worry about too much on that side of the motorman's. And eventually I'll put a control system in here, all the little detail parts. And there's barely enough room for seats down this anyhow, so it's going to be tight. So there we go. We have this done. There's one trim side glued up, and we're going to go back and do the rest of the interior work. And you can see here's that gap where the steps go. I don't have the other end on here yet, or it's not clear yet from that photo. Okay, so put in a chair rail below the windows all the way from one end to the other end using a piece of 1x8. It's HO 1x8. So it's really thin. It's a flimsy little piece of wood for an O-scaler to mess with. But I like actually using a lot of HO scale lumber. It's roughly a 1/2 inch by 4, plus or minus a little bit. You can calculate out whatever you like, but I like using these smaller pieces of wood because it just looks right. And I figure if it looks right, stop there. We're done. But the first thing went in here was this scribe siding. Let's see. Yeah, it's 130. It's also 1/32 thick scribe siding, 1/16 inch spacing. So it's different than the floor. That all gets glued in up tight against this chair rail of HO 1x8, and then a pair of pieces of 1x6 in HO for trim go under the chair rail and for the baseboard. And if you're going to do this, you got to leave some room over here for the other wall, other side to sit down on top of. So this scribe siding that's on this other side has to have a place to go. And that place to go is this little groove that I cut out and left here. You got to think ahead a little bit, or you're really going to be in a mess. And this picture shows something, but I'm not entirely sure what. So it's just how the door fits here in this groove again. It's not quite 100% tight. That's going to be a subject for next week. What's also kind of interesting here, though, is why is this piece here? And I don't know. And that's never, we'll come back to this again, but that's never really addressed anywhere in the instructions. Obviously, that's a little bit out of place. So you make up the other side. We've got the scribe siding. We've got these two pieces here. I'm not going to put this piece on at the baseboard until this is glued in place. Makes it a little interesting, tweezers and such, and putting a little flimsy little HO 1x6 in place with some carpenter's glue and getting it into place and pushing it around until it gets right, but it's not too hard. Okay, once you got both sides on, though, now you can put this top end former in place. And that ties the two sides together. You got a nice rigid box now. So you can see how this fits with the doors. Snaps right into place. It's a very nice design for building ends. It's a nice rigid thing. Yeah, these ears. Obviously, you know, there's an end piece on the ends. What are these doing here? It's not in the instructions, but we'll deal with them. That's usually synonymous with a sharp object being dragged across them until they go away. Okay, here's where we get interesting. So this is how you build the ends. In that bag of parts, there's 4 of these parts. There's 2 of these. You got to fill the bottom again. Got to leave room where this bottom piece goes so you clear the end former. So you got to be careful about that. So you glue the parts in, left, right, window sections, center section. And then there's a piece of trim that goes across the top. See, those ears aren't here now. Okay, they never tell you to cut them off. So you have to be brave. Do something that's not in the instructions. Take a deep breath, get out your razor saw, and cut something off that just doesn't belong. Don't worry about it. It won't hurt too much unless you cut your finger. Okay, so there's a piece of letterboard filler that goes at the one end. One end colored blue. Okay, I spent a long time searching every piece of wood in this box for a piece, one end colored blue. I found a both ends colored blue piece. Okay, well, could be it. Maybe, not sure. And I've got 2 other, actually I have 2 other Sacramento Northern kits sitting on the shelf of varying. And one of them is the Combine. And I pulled those out, spread them out all over the workbench too. Okay, do these have a one end colored blue stick? I found one of them did. And it matched the dimensions exactly of the 2 end colored blue stick. I thought, well, okay, I'm using that one. If it's wrong, I'll have to make something up somewhere later, but we're going to take that and use it, and we'll put it on there where it goes. We'll make that up. So just so you can see again, this isometric drawing is actually kind of useful. You can see where these parts are, and the numbers are here. So here's what we're talking about. These 3 pieces of wood, 21, 22, and 22. You got to bevel and cut them into place and fit them into place above the doors. So you have to be careful about this a little bit because they don't really tell you what the beveling angles are. You have to kind of look down at the top, glue a piece in, sand fit, sand fit, sand fit, sand fit. That's got it right. Glue it in place before you drop it on the floor and never find it again. I'll not explain how I know that that happens in my shop. So there's your end doors. Okay, the center piece gets cut out. Lower panel gets cleared in with, make sure you have the clearance with the panel filled piece, and that works out fine. And you put them all together and put them in place, and you've almost got a trolley car end. It's kind of shocking. I say almost because we're a long ways from done with this trolley car end. There's a lot of parts that go on this yet. And it needs to have the ears bobbed or removed or trimmed or hacked off. And that's where we're going to stop because I had to come up for air and I got to figure out what the heck I'm doing next week because as Jim alluded to earlier, there's going to be some deviation from the instructions going forward. How about that for a technical phrasing? In other words, we're going to get a little creative, inventive, and just grab pieces of wood and do whatever it feels like that makes it look right and go forward. Keep the fear to a minimum. It won't hurt too much. This is how you deal with kits that sometimes the pieces are missing or not quite right or what have you. It happens. It's not a problem. Just be brave and forge on and look at the pictures and say, well, it has to go that direction. Make it go that direction. If the parts aren't there, hey, go get some parts and make it happen. That's where the fun is in this. And, after you've done that a few dozen times, you don't need the kit anymore because now you can just scratch build the thing anyhow. So there's your transition from kit building to scratch building. And like I said, it only hurts a little. So
it doesn't hurt at all. It's a great lesson to teach, though, Martin.
Well, strong drink helps.
Anybody have any questions for Martin?
Yes, Martin.
Yes, sir.
Part 17, I think it was, which is the
God.
top that
Part 17.
covers where the ears were
Yeah.
sticking out on yours. It looks like that part actually stuck out beyond the
Yeah, I know.
rails. Was your part the same as the one in the isometric drawing?
Yeah, that was the weird thing about this. It didn't quite match.
Okay, that makes sense.
It fits between the sides perfectly, though.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't give it a second thought. I noticed that like yesterday or 2 days ago when I was looking at the drawings versus trying to figure out how am I going to make these ends work, and I was like, this doesn't even look right like the drawings.
Okay, that's better than noticing it after you put it together.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, it fit together so neatly and squarely, and I thought, well, that's perfect.
Yeah,
Keep moving. And I was like, if you're going to do it the way it's drawn, it just doesn't look right. So it wouldn't be the first time I've run across kit drawings that are disconnected from reality.
Martin,
Yes, sir.
Martin, those brass bracing that you
Yeah.
put on the ends,
Yeah.
were they solid or hollow?
Box. So they're
a box.
hollow. They're hollow.
So you might be able to run wires for lighting or something through them.
Could do all kinds of fun things with them later.
Okay,
You're
thank you.
brave and inventive. Though if I thought of that further ahead of time, I probably would have made them next size up.
Okay,
Yeah, they're pretty. That's pretty tight quarters on the inside. But I guess you could use one pole from each of your electrical from each side, and that would work.
Yeah.
Or you could just do the cowardly thing and go buy an Evans design lighting kit and put it in the roof and not worry about it. Not get too creative. So yeah, we're going to talk about the ends next week, and I don't know what else, but maybe we'll actually even get to the roof. I don't know. It depends how invigorated I am between now and then. or how much strong drink I've had.
Martin, thank you so much.
Yep.
Well, Tom Yorke was supposed to be with us tonight to finish up his model, but he got sick. And he sent me an email and apologized. And I told him, don't worry about it. We'll see you next week. So we won't have Tom finishing his model until next Wednesday. But I hope he gets well right soon. So then let me turn to Tom Farrell, who is our layout scratch builder, and find out what he's been up to.
Thank you for the introduction.
Yes, sir.
Got a couple of things for you guys this evening, and let me I'm gonna work on some structures here, actually. So everybody see that, hear that?
No,
No.
no.
Oh, let's try that again then. Okay. That's why I asked. Okay. Okay, how are we doing now?
Yeah.
Good.
There we go. Okay, well, this is a small section of my very large new ON30 rustic buff and old Gothic version 2. I call this Brady's Bend after a hard scrabble town north of Pittsburgh. This evening, I'm going to show you how I built Sanford and Son Salvage and how I finished the building flat in the background, which I'm calling the Milford Hotel. So there we are in blazing color. That locomotive up front is a heavily kit-bashed C16 Broadway Limited locomotive. And the shade to the left is something that a fellow named Sean Williams recently repaired. He put metal gears in there for me, a digital encoder, a wow sound speaker, and works marvelously. Anyway, this you can see where this section of layout's really coming along. It's all about details, details, details. Yeah. So I finished up this DPM O-scale modular wall system. On the left there is from part 3 last week. That's how far I progressed. And on the right, it's now finished. It's not quite installed on the layout, but it's in place for that photograph that I just showed you. I'm going to show you how I made that sign up there, and just some of the other things. First thing is the curtains on those windows. So if you look here to the right, you see every window, every floor has the same series of curtains. All I did is I went on Google and looked for dollhouse curtains, and it was just after the image, and I copied the image, brought it into PowerPoint, and I used a feature called Remove Background, and took out everything that was behind and around the curtain, and then I filled with a black fill. You can fill it with any color, but I wanted black. It's just a trick to not show details you don't want to show. So anybody that knows PowerPoint probably knows what I'm talking about. But I needed 4 for each floor, and I'm modeling the 1920s, 1930s, so these were appropriate. Next was the sign. I wanted one of these metal signs that hold letters up, wire signs. And so I went to Hobby Lobby and I found these, they're die cut. They're not laser cut. These are die cut letters. They're about 3/4 inch high. That's 3 scale feet in O scale. They're very inexpensive. Milford is the town in Connecticut that I went to high school. So it's just gave me an idea for a name. On the photograph on the right, I took the building and I mocked it up on a black piece of construction paper just to see what it would look like. And from there, I took what we call piano wire. It's just a very fine, hard, tough steel wire. I got it at Hobby Lobby. I just super glued these letters onto the rod. Normally these signs don't have a metal girder frame around them. I did some research on just Google looking at hotel signs that were like this, but I needed some way I couldn't figure out how to work with this hard wire, and I didn't want to run back to the Hobby Lobby and buy brass wire where I could have soldered it. So I got creative and I took some Plastruct, an I-beam material, and I simply bored holes in it with a pointed X-Acto knife. And then I inserted the rod into the end of the quote girder, super glued it in place. Then of course I ran out of that hard wire, and then I used some artificial flower wire that green, very pliable, very pliable wire. Okay. So that's basically the finished sign. And then I spray painted it black as a primer, flat black, because I always found that flat black makes a good base coat for when you're trying to rust things. And I just needed to be primed. I wanted to seal those cardboard letters. I wanted some way to prime all that metal, get it consistent. Then I painted everything with a white acrylic, and then various acrylics to rust it. And that's a close-up of the finished sign. And then I glued it onto the back of the Design Preservations Model building flat. And these are some of the highlights. So that's a little blurry, but it comes off very effective as a rusted sign. And the windows, these are simply those earlier where I showed you the printouts. These are simply cut out with scissors and Elmer's glue. I'm gluing it on the back of the Design Preservation Model flat, DPM flat. I should say the first step is to glue the glass, quote, the plastic acetate onto the back of the window. Then I sprayed it with dull coat. Then I glued the window dressing onto the back of the acetate. And those are the enlargements of all three types there. Comes off really nice, and especially at a distance. And the signs below is the old trick, you just find things on Google, bring them into PowerPoint. I sanded the backs of these with a fine sandpaper. I roughed up the corners, took maybe a little too off that Ringling Brother one in the upper left. And sometimes I use rubber cement, but this time I just used Elmer's glue, and I just paint the back of the paper printout of the sign with the Elmer's glue, and then I just put it on there and rub it down, and there she goes. So overall, I'm very pleased with this building flat. It comes out. It's a nice details. Details make the model, as we say. Next is the Sanford and Son salvage, the scratch build. I've featured scratch builds before. I always start with a aircraft grade piece of plywood. I build everything on the bench. The size of my models dictated by the piece of plywood I happen to have on hand. Sadly, that's the extent of my design. Then I just pencil out the what I think is going to be the foundation, and I just start. I don't really have a plan. The plan I should say with this building, I'll get to it a little later, what my concept was. This is more of that monster laser cut material. I really like their product offering. This is their random stack stone. I cut these on a 45-degree in the corners, and then I go back and I cut into to make the corners seamless with the front wall with the side wall and whatnot, so you can't tell that they're actually seamed. This is prior to doing that, but so I do the foundation with 1/4-inch basswood. It's too high here, and then I glue the Monster Works board onto those 1/4-inch foundation, we'll call it. Here's the first wall up on the left there. It features, in this case, this is layered. So there's a profile of the entire wall that's done in basswood. Sometimes I use plywood, 1/8-inch plywood, but this is basswood. And then I take board and batten, in this case, from one of the suppliers. I forget who I bought the board and batten from. I just glue that onto the base material, which is that 1/8-inch basswood. Up above is more Monster Works. These are their shingles, laser cut shingles. I wanted a variety of materials on here because at this point I decided I was making Sanford & Son my interpretation of what maybe their building would look like. And I wanted it to be just totally random. And I also wanted this building to have a sorted, what I call bump outs. So every single wall, all 4 walls, none of them are flat. They all have some sort of bump out on it. That was the concept of this model. And if you see on the photo on the right, all my structures I brace heavily with 1/4-inch basswood. It costs virtually nothing and makes a very strong model. There's a better view of the foundation. That's 1/4-inch material. And then the Monster Works stone is super glued right to the side of it. This is the stairway. It's simply simple, plain 1/8-inch basswood material with 1/4-inch basswood framework. It's the illusion of stairs, as you'll see later on if you're familiar with the building, but you'll see. This is the back of the building. This features another bump out. You can see the beginnings of one here. I mean, the easy thing to do would be to just put a series of windows on a flat wall. That makes for a relatively uninteresting building. And I wanted this, like I say, this was my bump out building. So there is that external stairway installed with some, if you'll notice already, there are 4 different sidings here. You can see the siding that's on the stairwell. On the first floor, you can see the tight board and batten. On the second floor, you can see the shingles, and then the bump out on the front of the building, you can see yet another siding. So this is all a series of random materials, because after all, it's Sanford & Son's salvage. So it's not supposed to look ritzy or anything. It's, as you'll see. There's the front. And again, there's a variety of materials here. The vertical board and batten, side, the stairwell has a horizontal siding, and then of course the shingles. There was that bump out we showed you earlier. It just adds dimension and character to the building. It's about I think it's roughly 1 inch off the main wall. There's yet another bump out on the left side. The left picture features the left side of the building. Again, this makes for a architecturally interesting model because of all the bump outs. And it looks like I did use plywood for the base material on this model. So this one will withstand a nuclear holocaust. Here we're just moving along, just another shot. Out of habit, I paint the perimeter black and the inside gray. I don't know why I do that, I just do it. looks nice in photographs. Unfortunately, I don't have the in between what you see now and what you saw a moment ago, but my technique's always the same. I start with a base color. For example, those shingles are painted with a gray, just a base gray color. And then they're hit with a black alcohol wash. That's all there is to that top floor. The bottom was a series of colors. I started with greens and blues and browns. I finally settled on a blue-green mix. Then I took I have a distressing brush. Basically, it looks like a pencil with metal fibers, metal wire coming out of it. I just scratch it vertically up and down, trying to expose the raw wood. And then I add alcohol washes of brown and black. And as I continuously say every time I demonstrate this technique, it's a very simple technique, and yet you get spectacular results. Everything here is trimmed out. You can see the perimeter of all the walls have 1x6 scale, 1x6 material. I typically pre-paint that white, then trim it to fit on the model. You know, I just hold it in place, mark it with a pencil, cut it with an X-Acto, glue it in place. I typically weather it when it's up there, so it has uniform weathering on the building. Here's the side. The roof is on at this point. The roof is just a basswood material. It's not a plywood. This is the front deck. The idea here is you're not going to see everything, so why model everything? So as you'll see, I paint out everything black, so if you happen to peer underneath, you'll see the finish in a moment here, but the idea is, you know, by painting things black, you really can't see anything if you happen to look into there. So if you see to the right, the finished deck, you see there's some boards that are protruding in the middle there where those gaps, see the gaps there and the vertical pieces? They're purposely shown in this photo on the right, you know, that and it's black. So, I mean, you don't have to model everything. So the model's really coming along here at this point. There's a corrugated metal roof there. You'll see I have 4 different roof materials on this building. So Sanford and Son Salvage, you know, they buy junk, sell antiques. Their building is a hodgepodge of different sidings, different roofing materials, different windows. That was all done on purpose. Here's basically the finished model. It really pops, all these colors and the all the detail. If you look at the left photograph, the second story, the broken window with the plywood over it, just a nice little detail. The roof immediately in front of you is tar paper. And then there's 1x6s just holding everything in place. You know, just to look a little dilapidated. I put a basement entry door there. That's just a Grant Line window and an angular piece of material that I fashioned out of scrap wood. The shutter that's falling off on the right. I mean, the idea is that it's just all being partially held together by, you can see on the photo on the right, look at all the different roof materials. There's corrugated roof, there's tar paper, different metal roof. This is the back of the building on the left, which rarely anybody sees. This is the right side of the building. There, I put a fence, my trademark, to make these fences. Again, there's all the same for me. They're scale 4x4s vertically, scale 2x6s horizontally, scale 1x6s as the fencing material. Behind that fence is some just scrap stuff that I painted, and nobody knows it's there but me. There's a detail of the roof on the left. And again, when you magnify a model to this magnification and it looks nice, you've pulled off some nice modeling. It really demonstrates the detail. It's really simple process. It's just questions. On the right is a drunk. Why not? You see the roof details, nothing more than looks like I use 2x6 or 2x6 material, 2x4 runners across the simple thing. The concept is to get to the top of the roof. You come out the door there and you can go right up onto the roof. And there it is in the whole scene. Sanford and Son salvage fits right into the genre here. Last couple weeks ago, I showed you the sidewalk sale. I've got the Milford Hotel. It's just propped up there, but that's where it's going. A couple weeks ago, I showed you how I made the distillery to the right. And those are the two locomotives in the shot. So it's really, really coming along. I'm really pleased with it so far.
Fantastic modeling, Tom. It really is beautiful.
Any questions for anybody on the techniques or any of the? No, you're all speechless, right?
No, you just did a beautiful job. Thanks so much, Tom. See you next week.
Yep, thank you.
Well, now it's time for our MyBuild. We need to turn to Chris Course, but before we do, our sponsor, Dan Daugherty's two magazines that I write for, S-Scale Resource and O-Scale Resource, is a sponsor for this segment. So if we could run his video.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale resource and the S-Scale resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
Well, now I want to turn the MyBuild over to Chris Course, who is the host for this segment. Chris, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Right in the slideshow here. There we go. All right. Welcome to the May 24th, 2023 edition of MyBuild featuring you. This month is a free-for-all. And I'm your host, Chris Course. All right, first up, we've got Martin. Are you still with us, Martin?
I'm upright and undergoing a level of consciousness that might make this work.
Okay. Well, we can't ask much more.
Okay.
Okay.
What do we got?
Move on to the next one. All right. It
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like you got 5 slides tonight.
I got it. I should have at least that, but that's okay. I don't know what you've done to the ones I sent.
Yeah, what I've been trying to do is I try to pair
You
them up unless
condense.
there's a lot of detail that needs to be shown in bigger.
You do a lot of condensation work.
Try to, man.
Not to be confused with evaporation. Yeah. So this was an acquisition off eBay that I bought 99% for the trucks that were under it because it had precision scale Pennsylvania Railroad cabin car trucks underneath of it, which retail for in kit form for about 3 times what I paid for the entire thing. So I was happy to get the trucks because I have a project for those, but I thought, because this thing's a mess. And I thought, well, there's some other things I could salvage off it, or I could just put it in the trash can and just keep the trucks. And I thought, no, let's see what we can make out of this. So yeah, ripped it down a little bit further and build it right back up again. So let's go to the next slide. And there's our final product. So it's a lot different caboose than it started out to be. And at one point I didn't have that bay window on it, but it just seemed like a gaping hole was there in the middle of the car. So, white metal casting from Scale City Designs. It's the old Keel line casting. They make 2 different versions of this. One is for a wood car, one is for a metal car. And that really finished off the car nicely. It adds quite a bit of weight to it that wasn't there before. And now it's sitting on a pair of arch bar trucks that are actually leaf springs. So it's a pretty nice car. I'm doing 2 different or 3 different minds of what to do with it now because I don't really have a use for it, but it was fun while it lasted. So, it's something I didn't really want, and I went forward with it anyhow, just to make it something interesting. What else do we got? What else did I send you? Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is an old Walthers, probably Hawk models precursor. I'm not sure what. This is the way it arrived. It wasn't sold that way on eBay in pieces, but I figured this is probably a blessing in disguise. It's easier to fix if it's already come disassembled. So there's a lot of things missing here, but so we'll make something out of it. And I have a soft spot for pickle cars and vinegar cars and everything in that area. Kind of, I find them irresistible. I have no idea why, but probably because I was plagued with too many pickles as a youth at my grandmother's. She was known to make many gallons of them once a year. I mean, many gallons. So that's where we started with. It's just a bunch of hunks of wood. And the nice thing about this, though, is the barrels are actually kind of nice taper on them. So it would be kind of annoying to make otherwise. So I would love to get some more of those, but I don't need to make any more pickle cars. I have way too many of them. So what's in the next slide? The final? No. Oh, so yeah, that's one of the things that was missing, an entire underbody. So there's the instructions. That's what it's supposed to build. So this is the old Walters kit. I don't know. It's probably older than, it's older than me, but not as old as Jim. You know, somewhere in that ballpark. But there's a, you know, you throw together an underbody pretty quickly and there, and add some end sill channel pieces in styrene. And now it's time to just put it all back together again. And there should be another slide.
Yep.
There it is. You know, I didn't mess around trying to clean up the foil paper printed labels that were wrapped around the tubs. I thought those were kind of, you know, historically interesting to keep those for as long as possible. They were okay. But just basically glue it all back together, some hatches on top, a roof walk, some odds and ends, some truss rods. That's a nice little pickle car. So I was, you know, more fun putting back together a pile of junk into something that, that 3 to 5 feet away, no one's going to blink at it, and you don't get too many pickle cars on the layout. And these things ran up into the 60s, so it's not like this is a, you know, strictly an old time car. So I think that's it. I hope maybe.
Yep, that's the last one. The thing I find that's really interesting about this car is that each vat is labeled.
Yeah,
so
differently.
I think that's going to be the big eye catcher for this car is the different labels that are on it.
Yeah, and getting replacement decals and stuff for this particular car. There's nothing really interesting. There are some pickle car decals out there, but they're really painfully boring. And all these cars were a little more interesting than that. And I thought, I'm just going to leave this paper alone. It's got some problems here and there. And I said, just leave it alone. It's not perfect, but we'll enjoy it as it is.
I think it's a great looking model.
Yeah, it came out fantastic.
Okay, well, thank you much. And
all righty. Are there any questions for Martin?
Yes. I've always wondered, how do they get the pickles out of the pickle car?
oh, that's actually pretty well known.
Hatch covers.
Sorry, I thought I heard something. Actually, there's one guy up, just like you're netting fish out of a pool. It's done manually, and towards the end, somebody actually goes down in there and gets the rest of them out.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, there's a job for you. You remember that show Dirty Jobs? Yeah. There's one for you. I was a pickle car emptier outer.
Where's Mike Rowe when you need him?
Yeah, man. No, but there are pictures of the guys up on the top of the roof with basically like that net they have that the pool boy uses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that exact tool, and they're just taking them out by hand. You imagine what it's like unloading that? Man.
Yeah, it's pretty labor intensive.
I mean, that's some work. You earn your check that day.
And then you got to get the rest of the liquid out.
Yeah, well, that's easy. You just pump that out. But, till you get down to the last dribs, boy. Okay. Well, that probably gave pickles a rather interesting flavor over the years.
That implies that it doesn't make the next batch better, the little bit you leave on the bottom. It's kind of like that mother thing in vinegar.
Exactly. Yeah. And that and the boots and socks and galoshes. That adds more texture and flavor. That chew factor.
It's a great way to build some neat looking cars at a very, very low cost.
Yeah. There's all kinds of fun stuff that, this is something I actually am going to be doing a clinic on it in about 2 weeks at the in the division jointly with the Chesapeake division called Trash to Treasures, and where I just go around and it's like I see $5-10 cars at shows that are barely alive, and you can just see, this thing has potential. I can, a little bit of work. Yeah. This could be something interesting underneath of it. or after I've added a layer on top of it. But good bones, and you can just build something up from it, and it's fun, it's entertaining, because you're pretty free to do whatever you want to a certain level.
It's the fun of the old kids.
Yep.
When
Yeah,
did
and
they start using pickle cars?
Sorry?
When did they start using pickle cars?
Oh, God. You'd have to go look up. There's a really, really, really good book on that. And Midwest history of vinegar and the vinegar and pickle industry in the Midwest. I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, but but 20s. I mean, they're going back a long ways on these. And they came in a lot of variation. Most people only, you see that one or two HO cars that were produced. The numbers and styles of pickle cars and vinegar tank cars that were actually in existence, it's very diverse. So it's something you can spend your entire life just modeling those cars alone.
One I remember was Ambrose's 1 of 5,000.
The HO one, it was the Richter vinegar car.
Yeah.
That was a 2-tank. That had 2 separate tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the diversity on those is phenomenal.
Yeah.
The Heinz 4-tub car came in different gallon sizes. So there was a taller one, than other, taller and shorter versions of it because it carried more volume. There's all kinds of variations on those cars. Everybody thinks of Heinz, but there are actually a lot of other companies, and some of them actually had a lot more cars than Heinz, or rivaled Heinz, at least in numbers of cars. Very, very big in the Midwest.
Cool. All right. Any more questions for Martin?
If I remember, I'm going to go look for the book. I'll put it in the chat, which one, the name of the pickle, the book that's worth getting.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I've been doing a little research on pickle cars myself. So.
Oh, it's a fantastic book, and there's all kinds of car plans in the back of it too.
Oh, cool.
David Leader, pickle and vinegar.
That's it.
Of the Midwest.
That's it. Yeah, it's a Leader's book.
Yeah.
That is it's an outstanding book. It's not a very large paperback. I mean, it's full size, 8.5 by 11 size paperback, but it's, I don't know, 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thick. It's not a big book. There's a lot of information honestly, a lot more information than almost anybody really wants to know about how the vinegar companies made vinegar and processed it and shipped it. And then it was used for the pickle industry. So they went hand in hand. Good stuff. Okay. Well, I've taken up too much time.
No, thanks, Martin. No, this is exactly what we're trying to do is spark discussion here. So this is great. So thanks, Martin.
Yep.
All righty. Next up, we have Kirk Booker.
It's pronounced Butcher.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I want to say hello to everybody.
Hello. All right. Looks like you've got 3 slides.
Okay. And this was something that I put together with some stuff laying around. I wanted to put a backdrop building up with lighting behind it because there's very little room behind the backdrop building, and the idea was to light it up. And I tried using regular people, but I couldn't get them small enough. And when I put light to them with the LEDs behind the building, it didn't show up well. So I went with the black on white silhouettes. And of course the sign, I wanted to stay with a black on white print. So I used your sign to do this. But anyhow, if you want to move to another slide, I could explain it a little bit better. This is obviously a night scene. The nice thing about the black on white silhouettes is you can get furniture, you can get lamps, lampshades, people, all kinds of stuff on there, couches, and you can size them down really small. For the guys that, this is HO scale. For the guys that do things in the smaller scales, they might appreciate using the black on white silhouettes. So
where did you get them?
Where did I get them? If you go online, and there's a site called www.shutterstock.com. That's where I found them. I just put in searched little people, and that's what it came up. So I mean, and it worked out well for the lighting. But also that was a good question. But also, I painted curtains. I hand painted the curtains on the buildings, and also the black on white. The white background was pretty bright, so I was I know you can't really see it in this building, but I used the side of colored pencils to tone down the white in the background. And I tried to get it to match the color of the curtains. But this building's a little bit brighter because I put the building on a blue backdrop, and I took it off the layout to take the picture. So I don't have the lights tweaked just right to get these pictures. Usually when I have it on the layout, I reduce the voltage on it. So Chris, if you could go to the next picture. Okay, this is how I assembled it from behind. I used 1/4 inch plexiglass, or in this case, I used Lexan, and it's pretty hard stuff, pretty rigid stuff. And I drilled holes in the side of it and buried my LEDs in there, and I used just a drop of CA glue to hold the LED in place. I wired them all in a series. And I wired the sign separate from the building because I wasn't sure how bright I wanted the building to light up versus the sign. And I used different colors. I used the warm white for the building, and I used the bright white for the sign. I was trying to simulate fluorescent tubing for the light or for the sign, and I think I got the color right, but I didn't have a whole lot of success trying to simulate tubing with the LEDs. I tried drilling through the side of the plexiglass all the way through it, and I had the lights facing each other, and it still didn't look right. So what I decided to do was, the picture on the right, you can see it. I used a drill press. I drilled almost to the bottom of the plexiglass, and then I was able to get it to it wasn't too bright because I used clear Lexan for the building, but I used a white Lexan for the sign, and I did that. The reason I used the white Lexan for the sign is because I wanted to diffuse the light a little bit. It turned out diffusing the light quite a bit, so I had to add more LEDs to it. But I think it came out all right. So I mean, there's a lot of different techniques here, and I wanted to explain all that. But I think it worked out okay for me for something for the. It's only the third building I've tried this on, and I think it worked out okay.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah, now if you can't see it, if you go back to the first picture, you can see that on the top of the sign, you'll see a little wire coming up. And what that does, when I put the sign on there, I was looking for a black on white sign. I didn't have the time to do all the searching. So I saw your sign. I thought, well, you know what, I'll put your sign in there, but I'll make it so I can remove the sign if I find something that fits my era, which is the 1960s, and I'll replace it later on. So, I mean, but I want to thank you for letting me borrow your sign there.
Well, we appreciate the free advertising.
Yeah, I thought you might enjoy that. But yeah, it was a fun project. It was a little more time consuming. You have to take your time cutting that Lexan because I have a bandsaw, and that's the way I cut the Lexan. It's a little tough it's tough stuff to cut. You got to take your time with it. But this is the first or the third time I've tried to use it with LEDs, and if you use if you can adjust your voltage, you can tweak it to where it works okay. Now, I mean, when I first put the building together, they're DPM. It's a DPM building flat, and they're pretty thick building flats. But if you turn the light up with too much voltage, it will actually bleed through the side of the building, and so you got to watch it when you're putting them together. You gotta check it as you're going along to see what's happening. Well, the one thing I should have done that I didn't do was paint the back of the building before I put my lights on there. And the other thing I have to do that I haven't done yet is I need to make a gasket for it and somehow attach it to the backdrop so that the light doesn't bleed through it, around it. And but anyhow, it was something I wanted to show you guys.
Yeah, this is something we haven't seen on this show before, and that's great that you brought it out. We appreciate you doing that, and thank you.
Hey, Kirk, this is Phil. Did you think about looking at the dwarven fiber optics for doing a fluorescent tube-based thing? That might be a really interesting future way to do it. You know, using a fiber optic, because especially if you stand a little bit on the outside, they glow then kind of all the way through, and you can twist them and make them kind of a glowing linear shape.
Yes, I saw that that one gentleman was showing with the fiber optics, and that really was I found that rather exciting. I would love to do that because this stuff's hard to work with, but I'm used to working with it. I love, the Lexan is, and I've got lots of it around. I had picked up a pile of scraps, and yeah, to make tube lighting, that would be great because that's what I was trying to do with a sign. And I don't intend to make another sign like this because the white Lexan requires a lot more lights than I wanted to put on it. So I would prefer to have fewer lights, of fewer bulbs, and present the same thing, So yeah, that's a great idea. I think I might try that with the next time I do this.
Kurt, let me make sure. Let me make sure I understand what you did. You got the silhouette material, and
right.
you put and the silhouette material you just glued on the back side of your building, right?
Correct.
And then you put the plexiglass behind that.
No. If you look at the picture here, the black on white silhouettes, just black on white paper. Here, let me show you. They look like this. Okay. All right. And what you do is you cut them out, and the picture is the last thing you put on when you're building this. The first thing you do is you get your building flat. You paint the front of your building flat, whatever you're going to do there, and then you get the plexiglass. And what I do is I take the plexiglass and I pencil in where the windows are going to be, because you got to know. You got to paint your curtains on. Which, by the way, I used 3 coats of paint on the curtains because if I tried 2 coats and it was still bleeding through. So I used 3 coats of paint. I hand painted the curtains. I thought about using commercial curtains, but I thought I'd have the same problem with commercial curtains. So I hand painted the curtains on the front of the plexiglass, and and I sandwiched that in between the flat and the plexiglass. And then what I did was I drilled holes in the side of the plexiglass for the building and wired it all up. And then I built a couple of sides to put on it, brick siding, and then I put a roof on it. It's just it's not a very big piece because it's not real wide. The whole thing's probably only a 1/2 inch wide, which is, it doesn't take up a whole lot of space on your layout. And you know, I was gonna ask you guys if anybody's done anything like this, because if I've been watching New Tracks for a couple years now and I haven't seen it, so I thought I'd present it.
I've never seen it before, but let me make sure I understand, because I'm not sure I do. So what you did is you in effect drew the curtains on the front of the plexiglass.
No, I framed in the window, so I know where to paint the curtains.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then you painted in the curtains on the plexiglass.
Correct.
And then you put in the silhouette. You glued the silhouette to that plexiglass on the front side of it, right?
No, on the back side of it. On the very back side.
So-
What you're looking at here is the back side of those pages that are printed with the silhouettes on them.
So the plexiglass is what, after you've painted the curtains where you want them, you glue the plexiglass to the back of your building.
Correct.
And then behind that is where you glue the silhouettes.
Correct. You can see where the blue tape is. The silhouette was coming off, so I just put some blue tape on there to hold it down.
Okay, so the silhouette then, I mean, the LED is behind the silhouette.
No, the LED is between the curtain and the silhouette. So it's actually in the middle. When you look at the sign, when you see the face of the sign, the paper's in the front, but in the building here, the paper's in the back.
Okay.
So
the LED is on the top really of the plexiglass region.
right. It's on the top of the plexiglass, drilled down through the center. The plexiglass is wider than the LED. So I was able to drill a hole through the side of it and drop the LED in it.
So about halfway down the window is where the LED is.
No, the LEDs, I placed them in between the windows so that they wouldn't be too bright. Because if you place them right in front of the window, it's actually too bright, and it doesn't look good. So I try to hide it.
So the hole then is what feeds the LED light through the window.
Correct. Well, see, the plexiglass carries the light. It'll carry the light through the whole building.
Okay.
Or through the whole piece. Now, like I have two other buildings I didn't show, but they had what I did was I wanted to black out some windows, so I just eliminated the plexiglass. I didn't put any plexiglass there at all. You see what I'm saying? And they'll remain dark because the plexiglass absorbs the light and dispenses the light.
It's kind of like one big fiber optic.
Yeah, exactly. But not as probably not as good as it doesn't work quite that well.
Why did you drill the hole in the plexiglass?
Well, I had to find some way to mount the light, so that I can make it as thin as possible. So if I could put the light behind it, but it's the same thing, only I have the wires out in the way, and I didn't want to, I wanted the wiring inside the building, because the LEDs, they got really stiff wire. The two wires that come off the LEDs protrude from behind it, and you want to concentrate the light in front of it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, it's the direction of the lighting, and that was the best way to do it.
Yeah. It's a novel approach. I'd never seen it before.
Well, that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. We appreciate that you brought it to our attention. This is neat.
Yeah, I thought, well, if I present it to you guys, maybe somebody could take this idea and improve upon it. And I'd love to see that too. That would be a great thing, sometime in the future. If somebody was crazy enough to do this, I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah. So this was fun. This was a fun project. The other thing I might mention is I used to power the thing, I just use some old train transformers. I use the DC,
Yeah.
and I just use an old train transformer, and also I use I've got 4 LEDs that are wired in a series on the sign, 5 LEDs on the building, and I use a 1,000 ohm resistor to keep them running cool. You want to keep them running as cool as possible because I don't want to have to replace them anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because I'll probably have to drill them out to get them out of there. I don't know. I haven't tried to replace a bulb yet, but so far you know, I run them on the layout quite a bit, and they're holding up pretty good.
Very cool.
Awfully creative. It really is. I love those silhouettes. I've never seen those silhouettes before.
Yeah, you know, they used to put them on the old Mantua passenger cars, the HO Mantua passenger cars years ago.
Yeah.
I've always liked them too, but I wasn't crazy about the bright white behind them.
Yeah.
And I would love to see somebody do some silhouettes of like some passenger car seating or something, because that would be a lot of fun to work with those. Or if somebody, you know, if somebody could print something like that, that'd be great. You could light up a lot of passenger cars that way.
Yeah.
All righty. Any more questions for Kirk? All right. Well, thanks, Kirk. We'll move on now to Greg. There we go.
Kirk, that was really neat. And I like the idea of the lighting in front of the silhouettes because we're so used to lighting being behind them. And I think that opens up a lot of opportunities. But dealing with electronics, I don't want to go there. Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
All right. Looks like you've got 4 slides tonight, Greg. Oop, sorry. There we go.
Got an itchy trigger.
I need a new mouse. This mouse is dying on me.
Okay. The Model Railroad Club I'm in, we do a lot of little setting up tables at science fairs and senior centers and stuff like that to get exposure. And one of our members built a small, I'm going to say about 1.5 by 3 foot N scale layout. He put down some track on a piece of foam. And I said, well, I know a guy who can build a couple kits for it. So I went ahead and got 4 N scale kits. And this one I got off eBay, and it was supposed to be complete. But by the time it got to me, it wasn't. I had all the walls and the roof, but the base, which you glue everything onto, and that's what holds all the walls together, wasn't there. The guy ended up comping me back the money, which I think was more than lenient. He didn't need to do that, but I just went ahead and built a base for it. But trying to do bricks and plastic in N scale, I'm not that good at plastic in the first place, and doing it in N scale is even more difficult. But I managed to get it to all kind of hold together. And this is the same basic lifelike station that was in Sykesville, is in Sykesville, and probably everybody has seen on hundreds of layouts before. You can go to next one. Now, these next 3 are from a company called Mud Creek Models, and they're pretty new. Frank Saladino runs it, and he's come out with some of these. This one is his barn, and I did a couple minor modifications on it. The building that's attached to it only had windows, but I thought it'd be nice to have a way to get into it. So I put a door on it. I just made the door out of some scribed wood and added a few details and a couple little fair signs and stuff like that. And this one went together pretty quickly. I just used some red stain on it. Next one.
Yeah, crap. Sorry. There we go.
This one they call Natalie's Freight House. And I didn't do much different on this one, except the freight dock that came on it was pretty small. So I put a larger one on it, and I extended it beyond the end. So you had steps that went down to a door that led to the manager's office. And then added a couple of details onto it. But otherwise, it's pretty much the way the kit came. And it was a fun kit to build as well. These little N scale kits go together in a couple of days. You know, you spend more of your time trying to find all the parts on your workbench. And last one.
Ah, it worked. Okay.
And now this one was the most fun because I love doing general stores because I get to do signs and I love making signs. And one of the big modifications I did on this one, the kit comes with windows on those side walls. And I said, well, if they got windows, I can't put signs there. So I made new walls that didn't have any windows. I went ahead and added some parts to it, like the stove and stuff and blinds inside. And I put some shelves on the inside. Why I was detailing the inside of an N scale kit, I don't know.
Mhm.
Then I went ahead and put all the signs on it. And the only thing that didn't come out right, the awning over the front, I was trying to make it look like it was worn away in one spot, and it ended up a lot darker than I liked. And when I took the pictures afterwards, everyone said, was there a fire? So I went back and lightened that up a bunch so it doesn't look like it was burned off. But you know, all of these kits were fun in just being able to put together something really small. You can tell how tiny it is by my hand there. And trying to weather something this small. I'm used to weathering HO kits and O scale kits. And if you're trying to do something like a little streaks of rust down a stovepipe or something, it's pretty easy in HO and O. But in N scale, the little drop that you're trying to get to make the streak is bigger than the part you're putting it on. So it ends up being really challenging. I used a lot of weathering powders and some colored pencils on these kits, but I like the way they come out.
Yeah,
All right,
you would
thank you,
not know
Chris.
that this is N scale. It looks a lot bigger.
Yeah, and they're all on the layout now, and so now we have to do a lot of landscaping on it, so that'll be fun as well.
Greg, did all of them come from the same manufacturer?
The 3 wooden ones do. That's Mud Creek models.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Are there any questions for Greg?
That's nice work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Johnny.
Yep. Greg.
And we don't see a lot of in scale. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I may end up doing one or two more as well. We have a lot of layout to fill up.
All righty. Thanks, Greg. We will move on to Cliff. You up, Cliff?
I am up.
All righty. All right. Looks like you've got 6 slides that we managed to squeeze together here. I tried to take and put them in a logical order. So if they're not in a logical order, I apologize. All right.
All right. So this was a commissioned project. It's done in O scale. It's for a local business. Local doctor saw some of my work and he said, hey, can you do my wife's store? And this was the result. And they were tickled to death with it. Just a combination of paper and wood and cardboard and concrete and grass. And it was just really a lot of fun to build this.
Okay.
This is I'm practicing a style of roof on this little house. It's going to be an S scale when he's completed. Just another practice piece. Find that I'm constantly working on something, honing a skill, learning how to do this, learning how to do that. Even though I've been doing this for a while, there's still something new to learn. And
Did it skip slide? Yep, it did. Darn. All right, hang on. See if I can do this by hand. No, it's going the wrong way. Yeah.
don't you love technology?
Oh my gosh. Holy crap. There we go. That's what we're looking for.
I had, I think, one before that, wasn't there?
Oh, yep, there we go.
Okay, these are some little East Coast cottages. You're going to see these done a little bit more with some water for next year. I always like those beach cottages that you see on the East Coast. The one in the cardboard with the green tape on it, that is my honing to make the Summer of 42 cottage that I did a bigger version of. Everybody commented on it and loved it. So now I found the actual photo of the cottage and I am making that. And the other two were just little houses that I found. Going to try to do them in a kit form. The couple that bought the big business, it's an art company and they support local artists. And she thought some of my little houses as kits would be a great thing. Teach a class or two on how to do this. And so just wanted to do some fun little guys.
What scale are
all
these?
done with laser.
What scale are these?
These are S scale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm a die cast collector and I do all my houses to go with all my S scale or my die cast cars.
Gotcha. Alrighty. See if I can do this without the mouse. Guess not.
Are you going to market these kits?
Yes. Once I get them done where I see that people are going to be able to do this, yes, I do want to market them. Yeah. This was the first house I built. Everybody said was the Summer of 42 house. I realized that it was not a 2-story house. I look all over the place for old floor plans. And I probably, in my computer, I probably got about 50 different books with all the old Sears houses and all that. And that's what I run my my build off of. Just get my ruler and my laser cutter and away I go.
Fantastic. You make your own windows?
Yes, I do.
What do you make the windows out of?
They're cut out of the wood. This was a trial. So I didn't have the window loose. I cut it directly in, and then I'm going to frame around the window. So I don't have that loose window there. But this gives me the freedom to do any kind of window I want, because I don't always like the window that's shown in the house.
Yeah.
Or the size.
That's really great.
All right, and then this is a cardboard mock-up where you see the little Ford pickup. Trying my laser cutter as doing a shaker shingle and siding, and then the other one is just a cardboard mock-up of a house that you liked, Jim, that you had seen. It was a cute little brick or a stone house that I had done about a year ago.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to kind of fine tune that with my measurements and make it look where I'm happy with it. So I keep playing with stuff, and it's until I get it right.
Yeah. Is that one of your die cast S-scale vehicles?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Who makes that?
That one is a I think that's a green light.
Okay.
Truck.
Okay.
And then the house where the truck is, that is actually going to be put onto a base with stilts underneath it. So it'll be on a beach. So with sand and water around it. So you may see that one too next month when I get a little further along.
That'll be neat.
It's just so much fun. I started out with popsicle sticks and cardboard, and I've come a long way, I think. And I'm picky about my scale, so I try to do as true to scale as possible.
Cool. Alrighty, thanks, Cliff. Are there any are there any questions for Cliff? All right, I guess we'll move on. Thanks again, Cliff.
You're welcome.
Very interesting stuff there. All right, Jeff Jordan.
I'm here.
There you are. All right. Looks like you've got 4 slides tonight.
Okay. Oh, this is things going on in the mining district. This is actually a Banta kit. I think he calls it the Idaho mine, and this is the building that would house the winch for the lift. And it's a nice kit. And while I was building it, I discovered that Keith Wiseman sells a really fantastic interior detail kit with lots of interior equipment. You can see a steam boiler, the lift, a generator, a pump, several pieces, and all plumbed together. So there's steam lines running to all of them. And I decided, oh, that's got to go inside. And then I said, well, gee, if I put all the siding on the building, you'll never see everything that's going on inside. And so how could I have an excuse for leaving the siding off? And the answer is the siding's really rough and they're re-siding it. So I've got some carpenters there at work putting up new siding, but for the time being, the siding is off and you can see all the stuff going on inside.
Cool. What scale is this, Jeff?
This is O scale.
Okay.
And it's lighted with the Woodland Scenics plug and play lighting, which I really like because they offer the little dimmers. And so you'll see that I can use the same LED style LED light in different buildings and have different intensities. And you can see that, I'm populating this mine camp here. There's several buildings in the background and the 2 in the front, each are going to have interior detail.
Yeah.
That's
I
neat.
think there's more photos of this one.
Yeah, there's the interior. It really shows off Wiseman's detail set really nicely. You going across there from the left, you see the steam boiler. In the front, there's a generator. Behind it, there's a little single cylinder steam engine that cranks the generator. Then to the right of the figure there's a blower, and the pipe goes all the way out to the mine to pump air down into the mine. And then over there on the right is the lift with the cable up to the car for the lift into the mine. There's also a switch panel in the background there on the wall. All of those bits came in the Weissman kit, and then it's a Woodland Scenic figure in there just to have some life inside and to give a little scale to it.
That's great.
Fantastic.
That is great.
Let's see, what else do we have here?
And you've got the other building in the mine. Yeah,
Yep,
this
there you go.
is a kit I just got fairly recently, and I was so excited about it. I put everything aside and worked on this kit. It's an out of production model from a company called Schaumburg Scale Models. And those are hydrocal walls, and the casting was just so nice. And it came with resin interior detail and resin windows and a resin roof, which I didn't like and didn't use. But the walls came out so nicely, and it had the interior detailing. I said, well, you've got to do something to really make the interior work. Also, you see there on the right-hand photo, the rear window is blocked off. The kit has 6 windows, but it only came with 5 window castings. And so that inspired me. Well, what am I going to do with that? Okay, we'll block up the window. And why is the window blocked up? And so inside, I actually framed a storage room on that corner. And so the window's blocked off to make the storage room secure. And then you can begin to see some of the interior. I don't know if I gave you more interior detail shots.
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
I really like the lighting in that one in the upper.
That's the Woodland Scenic. That's my point. That's the Woodland Scenic light, but it has the little dimmer. And this one is turned way down because in my experience, blacksmith shops are dark. And I thought that running it much dimmer like that really gave it the feel of a blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
Is that company going out of business, Jeff?
Schaumburg Models. Yeah, if you go to their webpage, it just announces, sorry, we've gone out of business. So the model is no longer available.
Did somebody buy them, or they just went out of
They're
business?
just gone. I bought this kit from a friend at the O-Scale meet earlier this year, and he said he was never going to get to it, and so he sold it to me. But there may be a few Schaumburg models left on eBay, which is
You
kind of a
look at-
shame because the wall casting is just beautiful. It's all hydrocal, beautifully carved. The brickwork is just fantastic.
That's why I was surprised that he was just out of business, because to hear you talk about it, I mean, with the interior detail and the kind of castings that there are for the kit, it just sounds like it's a super kit.
Yeah, I think it's one of these situations where he ran the business for a lot of years and decided to retire.
Yeah. Boy, that's too bad.
All right.
I'm not sure, but I think he's back in business, but he's not doing this line. This was his early line. And I think he's starting to produce more stuff again.
So I went to the web page to see if I could get the missing window, and it comes up with a single page that says, "Sorry, we're out of business."
You have
Here's
a contact for him by any chance?
All I have is I searched the internet for Schaumburg scale models, and you get their web page.
Yeah, the fellow is Chris Crichton is the name of the fellow that owns it.
How do you spell it?
Creighton, I think. Eighton, Crichton. I believe that's so it is.
Okay.
And his first name is Chris.
Chris?
Yeah.
And it's Crichton, CRI.
CRI or CREI, I'm not sure.
Okay.
He's in Ontario.
Yep, it is Canadian operation. Yep. So here's the interior. And again, it basically just gave you the bare walls, and I said, this needs a real interior. So I did several things here I haven't done before. The floor is coffee stirrers, stained and then really dirtied up again for the interior of a blacksmith shop. Between the coal they're burning and the scale from hammering the metal, the floors get really dirty. So I wanted a really dirty floor. And the kit actually comes with, you see on the left, the bellows, the frame, the furnace, the hood, and the anvil. And then on the right-hand side, it comes with the barrels and with the workbench. I added the floor. I added all the tools scattered on the workbench. And then the shelving unit in the back, again, is another Keith Wiseman product. It's a urethane single-piece casting with some magnification and determination and time. You paint the whole thing and then pick out all the little bitty details, and it gives you lots of nice stuff on the shelving. Also, I really like how the trash cans and the barrels all came out. They really look like they're separate pieces. Adds a lot to the interior. Actually, behind that, you can't see from these photographs, that's where the storage room is. And the storage room, again, was all framed out with coffee stirrers, which I really am an advocate of using. They're great material, especially for O scale. They come out as a nice dimension in O scale. They take stain nicely. They're cheap as dirt. You get a bag of like 1,000 of them in the supermarket, and there are tons of things you can do with them. You can't really see. I also added roof or ceiling rafters in this room, which kind of conceal. So if you look in and looking up, you see the rafters rather than the underside of the roof. The roof was redone. It came with a thick resin roof with shingles, and I didn't think the shingles were appropriate for a mining operation. And so the many photographs I looked at, the corrugated metal roofing is the way to go. I think, Chris, if you can back up a slide, you'll see the corrugated metal roof. There it goes. And there's the corrugated metal roof. That's also something that I hadn't tried before. That is paper. That's from Clever Models. And you literally go to their webpage, pick out the texture you like, pay them like $2, and they send you an electronic file, and you can print out as many copies as you want. The $2 gets you as many copies of the file. And so it comes in a big sheet. I cut the sheet into appropriate size sheets of corrugated metal. So both the height and the width of the panels. And then the trick, of course, with the paper is if you just leave the cut edge, it's white. And so I took an alcohol pen and just hit every edge of that sheet to darken it up and overlay them like that. And I think I got a very effective corrugated roof on the building.
I
It's
agree.
over a sheet of styrene.
It's super cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can make as much as I want now. You know, you are free to make as many copies as you want for your personal use. Obviously, they don't want you to go into business reproducing them or giving them away. But once you buy the file, you can print from it as many times as you want. They have a ton of interesting textures. Indeed, if you look behind this building, you see the next building behind there, which is a corrugated metal building. That's paper too, and that's a Clever Models paper, the whole building, walls, roof, everything. If you haven't looked at Clever Models, go look at their webpage. They have a ton of interesting buildings, all paper, all kinds of textures, really nicely weathered, and it, you know, it holds up. It looks really good. You don't have to bury them in the background. There's so much character and so much detail that it really stands out, especially if you do like they describe in their instructions and build the buildings with multi-layers, that they give you the windows as a separate sheet, and you can cut out the windows and actually have multi-layered. You can just see peeking in the background on the right-hand picture there. You see that window on the building, and you can see it looks like it has some real depth to it. It doesn't look like it's just flat on the building, and that's again because it's 3 sheets. It's the top framing piece, and then it's the wall, and then it's the window sashes, all as separate layers, and it gives the building some real depth.
Cool.
And also over there on the right is just a neat little kit I picked up someplace. It needs some more pipes, but then the pipe rack I thought worked well with the blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
They really are a great company. Like they used to have DVDs of their some of their models. One of them had a bunch of different critters on it, and it was just fun to be able to print them out as many as you wanted, and see what you could produce with them.
All right. All right. Any questions for Jeff before we move on?
That's beautiful work, Jeff.
Thank you.
Really is.
Yeah, beautiful.
How do you spell clever? Clever Model.
Clever. Clever.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Getting people some business. All right. All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. This is always interesting to see what you come up with, and this is certainly another example of that.
Thank you.
Good stuff. All right. Now we move on to David McLean. Are you up, David?
Doesn't look like he's on.
Okay. All right. He sent some photos, or he sent actually just a single photo of this Canadian Pacific gondola. I think he might have 3D printed this. I'm not sure. There wasn't much in the description that he sent me, but
I can add a little bit to that. Yeah, it's his own 3D printing, and he developed that car, and he's made quite a few of them. He belongs to the Toronto O-Scale Club, and so that's where some of those will be hitting. Plus, he models in O-Scale at home.
Boy, it's a beautiful model. Is that all 3D printed?
Yes.
I'll be darned. That's the future.
He's quite a clever chap. He's good in electronics. He does a lot of the electronics at the club.
Mm-hmm.
And the CTC is I think it's JRMI that they run down there. So he's been developing all that at the club.
I'll be darned.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, we will move on. Next up is Alan Rogers. You up, Alan?
I am here. Good evening, everybody.
All right. Looks like you've got a bunch of stuff tonight. Looks like managed to get him onto 4 slides now.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I took the picture in the upper left-hand corner. That's my presentation model of a kit that I produce. It's actually an SP prototype. I call it the 1928 bungalow. So my picture is really nothing to write home about. I took it outside one day to a park and just shot that. Then a fellow in New Mexico who's an artist named Brian Lee started ordering my kits. So he bought one of my kits, and that's his rendition in the lower right-hand corner. He collects die-cast vehicles. So he made this scene with my kit, and it's a Florida bungalow. And I just can't believe what he does with my stuff. So if you want to move on to the next one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that was the same kid, but I was like, man, I'm missing something here.
Looks like the real thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say this is S scale?
That is O scale, although I'm in the middle of retweaking things where I'll be releasing that in HO and S scale.
All right. Next.
That's another picture from Brian. So it's the same kit that he built, and kind of a typical Florida look. Seems like it turned out he and I both were natives of Florida back in the day. So
that came out pretty neat. Yeah, I didn't realize at first. I thought this was a prototype photo that you based it on. Then I looked a little closer and was like, oh, it's not.
It's the truth, isn't it? Yeah, very deceptive.
Yeah. All right.
So the upper left-hand picture is my picture of my Weller gas station kit in O scale, and the lower picture is Brian's rendition of it. So you can see he really embellishes a lot on my kits. So kind of cool.
He really makes them come alive, Alan.
Yeah.
He does, truly.
Yeah, that one looks like it's
a moment in time.
Yeah, it looks like it's not brand new, but it's got a little bit of wear and tear on it.
Right. He also gave me permission to use his pictures on my website now, which is nice.
Oh, that's great.
So I've been adding him to my website. Is there another one? There it is.
Yeah.
So again, my picture is the upper left-hand corner. That's the O-scale Weller store kit. And the other two pictures are Brian's version. So you can see he's made a diorama with and that's the way they looked in the prototype picture. That store is still located in my town, Bakersfield, California. It was built in 1905. By the way, if you hear weird animal noises, I have to apologize. I've got a very troublesome cat here right now. So anyway, the gas station's long gone, but the store's still there. And I did compress the length when I produced the kit in half because, you know, if I built the thing full length, it would be too big of a footprint.
Yeah.
So,
Alan, can I ask on your first picture of your bungalow, that kind of ripple across the top, what's that made from?
Well, luckily in O-scale, you can get tile roofing. That's, I forget who makes that. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheets. And
okay, so it's just a cut strip from that.
Exactly.
Nice.
To be honest, the S-scale version, I'm having to 3D print my own tile roofing because it's not available. It is available in HO scale though.
It's a neat looking roof. It really is.
My 3D prints aren't turning out too bad.
Is it Cabri that's if one of the European manufacturers does it in HO scale?
It could be Capri. I think I got it from Amazon, so I just don't remember at this point.
Wow, he sure does a good job with your kits, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He is.
Mhm.
If
And I
you
think
wanted to,
I was looking at the other pictures of his. He really, his trees make the scene look so real.
Yeah.
I invited him to join us tonight and he couldn't come. You know, I wanted him to talk about his own work, but he just wasn't available. So maybe some other time.
He's the Greg Cassidy of Victorian Creations.
Well, since he's not here, I can say he's not quite as good as Greg, you know?
Oh, come on, that thing looks real. All those pictures look real.
Oh, yeah.
They
I can't
truly
do
do,
that.
don't they?
Yeah, those trees knock it right out of the park.
This is
Especially with like with this one, he manages to blend in the surrounding the real trees,
Mhm.
yeah.
because
Yeah,
I'm
he
sure
lives
there's
in-
just a shrub behind it.
He lives outside Albuquerque, and I think that's their local scenery, actually.
Yeah.
His modeling is why I think that some of what we do is really art. I mean, you look at that, and we're sitting here looking at photographs saying, was that real or a model? That's as close to art as you can get.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Any questions for Alan?
Thanks for showing them, Alan. This is really spectacular modeling.
Yeah, thanks
Well,
for sharing.
And Alan, I like the way you did the roof on your build of it too. I think that's a really nice looking roof.
Yeah.
Well, you
the
know,
metal
that's
roof, yeah.
that metal roof that I use for O scale. It's actually recycled drink cans.
Mhm.
So I have a process I run them through, and then I just paint them up and cut them up into panels. It's a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, I think you did a tutorial on it, didn't you?
I did a while back, yeah.
I like the detail on the front of this building. It's not something that I've seen before on any kind of building like this. I like that a lot.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Alan. And we will move on to Gary Shergold. You up, Gary?
I am here.
All righty. Looks like you got 3 slides tonight.
Yeah, this is the Abbott Donning Concord Stagecoach HO scale Jordan kit. And I had it for a while. I figured I'd take a chance on building it. And as you can see, the railing and on the top was the most challenging because that railing didn't come in one piece. It came in numerous pieces. So it was a little tedious putting that together. The coach itself is quite a nice kit. The interior is all done. The little awning on the back of the stagecoach I made from electrical wire wound around a piece of wire and then put straps on it. So that would be folded down if there was a lot of luggage there to protect it. And then the seat is simulated leather. The coach itself was, that's multicolor paint and stains put on it, and then a little bit of weathering. Now it is, when it gets finished, it will have 4 horses with all the reins and that also on it. But it was a nice kit, a little bit challenging, but I thought it turned out pretty good.
I'm afraid if you finish the horses, you're going to have to feed them. This looks really good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the wheels on that were on those coaches, they were painted yellow, and I used a pencil on the edges just to simulate the steel that would have been around the wood to hold the wheels and give them protection as they go down the road.
Yeah, that came out really nice. All right.
This model here is a Woodland Scenics gun and tackle. I've actually done 2 of these. This is a second one. These buildings are all metal and they're beautifully detailed. And what I like about them is they're small enough and I use them as fillers. So if I have a small area and I want to put a lot of buildings in there, like maybe 2 or 3 together, I go to these here and fill in that space. And they come highly detailed. They have, as you can see in the window, there's rifles, guns. On the other window where the most signs are in, there's fishing tackle, a fish display in there. And just using different colors, the brickwork was done with 3 different colors over top of each other. The guns and tackle sign didn't come out very good. The first one I did, the transfer came out beautiful, but for some reason this one came out a little funny. So redid the roof. The roof is painted a black green with a little bit of weathering on it. And they, as I say, they are very nice models. You should have another slides of that showing the other side.
Yeah. Did you say this is a Woodland Scenics kit?
It's Woodland Scenics, and it's an
Okay.
all metal kit.
Yeah. Because actually the backside is what really caught my attention. But I figured we better show the front side first. So
Yeah, this is the backside of the building. As you can see, that's the way I do my rocks. They're done in multiple colors. And then I do the hunter line. It's not gray, but I can't remember the name of the stain, but I put that over to blend everything in.
like a blue gray or the driftwood.
It isn't driftwood. Oh, I can't remember the name right now, but this is what I use on all my brickwork, or not brickwork, stonework. When I do my foundations and that, this is the blending. The stonework is painted numerous colors. A while back I showed how that was done. I take latex paint numbered 1 to 5, and I just keep going over it. I start with number 1, paint the odd brick or the odd stone here and there until I complete number 5, and then some of it's quite bright, some of it's a little faded, and then I blend it all with the underline stain. But as you can see, the brickwork turned out nice. It's 3 different layers of latex paint over top of each other, and it's dabbed on. It's not painted on. It's dabbed. But they are very nice buildings, and they fill in, as I say, I've got an area on the layout where I have 4 of them, and they fill in a small area very nicely.
Yeah, they look like a nice compact feature that has a lot of detail in it that is really eye catching.
Yeah.
So.
The other one I built, the first one I built, it's all detailed inside. Like if you lift it up off the layout, there's the flooring's in there. This one has the flooring in it also, but the other one has the service desk, and there's a man in there and some shelving and stuff like that.
Oh, so there is a little bit of details inside.
No, the details I made my scratch.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. The only detail that comes with this is the window displays.
Oh, okay.
that are on the front. You see the rifles and
Oh, yeah.
the gun, fish, and yeah, there
Yep.
they are there.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice kit.
Yeah. Yeah. I might have to try another one because I started one a while ago and I was just didn't like it all that much. So I put it aside and haven't been back since. So maybe I'll give it another shot. Looks like some good inspiration here.
Yeah.
So. All right. Whoop. Crap. Hang on. What just happened here? I apologize for that. Let me fix this real quick. Oh, that's not where I wanted to be. Okay. All right. Now we're back to where we were. Sorry about that. Any questions for Gary?
That's just gorgeous, Gary.
Yeah. Looks really nice.
It really does.
Thank you.
All righty. So thanks again, Gary. And we will move on to James Taverna. Did I say that right? You up, James?
Don't see him in the participants.
Okay. I saw something in the chat.
Yeah, he's had some health issues. He just had to get a pacemaker put in a couple days ago. So
oh, okay.
Very often when he joins the show, he lets me know, and I haven't seen him tonight.
All right.
But he did say he was going to send in a couple things.
Yeah, he did. Looks like I've got 2 slides from him. The first one, it's he did, from what I recall, he did a 3D printed some box cars. And that's what you're looking at here. So they came out great. I wish my 3D printing looked half as good as this stuff does. And then,
you know, it would be great just to be able to talk to him about how he does that. Not that I'd understand it, but I'd just like to hear him talk about it.
yeah, maybe when he gets back up to speed, we can get him in here and drag some secrets out of him.
That's just beautiful work.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic work. All right, and then he also sent a picture of his caboose from his layout. So that's the other.
Wonder if those are 3D printed.
I would bet they are.
I would bet they are too.
All right. Okay.
What scale is this?
I believe it's O scale.
Yeah, this is all O scale. I've been down to his layout, and I'm actually currently building a station to go on it. And he's got one of the biggest layouts I've ever seen, and it's only about half done so far. He has lots and lots of brass. I wouldn't be surprised if these are all brass cabooses. But he's an incredible modeler, and he's gone through a couple health things between a knee replacement, and he just had a pacemaker put in, but I'm sure he'll be back to normal in a couple of weeks. He's a strong guy.
Craig, since you've got contact with him, when he feels better, I sure would like to hear from him.
I'll let him know. I know he's been enjoying coming to the show and watching it. So I'll let him know that we'd like to hear more from him.
Yeah, this is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Thanks to everybody that participated tonight. The next MyBuild will be June 28th, and it will be a challenge. It's water because of summertime. Shows your boats, bridges, rivers, lakes, ponds, beaches, anything that's water related that you've got. We'd really like to see it. See what you're working on in terms of that, to basically bring about and celebrate summer. So to participate, email your photos to me, railrunner130@hotmail.com. And if you have not participated in the past, please send a photo of yourself so we can put that on your title card. Also, please get your photos to me by the 21st of June. I was doing a mad scramble tonight trying to get everything together, and the earlier we can get stuff put together, the better off it'll be, the less stressful it'll be. So that's just a personal ask, is please send those photos to me early. Thank you. And all right. So one of the things I figured out, or that we did at the one of the management meetings, was we talked about the challenges, and this was something that we kind of brainstormed a little bit. I threw some ideas out there, and we made some more, formed some better thoughts on it. As you guys saw, we did the spring challenge in April, and then we have the June water challenge, the summer challenge coming up. And then in August, the theme for that one is going to be harvest. Show us your farm equipment, your grain elevators, your hopper cars, mills, tractors, agricultural items, your barns, chicken coops, livestock, whatever you've got along those lines, to signify the end of summer and the beginning of the harvest. And then in October, it'll be Halloween. We'd like to see haunted houses, abandoned buildings, abandoned railroad cars, scarecrows, derelict engines, those sorts of things. And then in December, we want to do a holiday. So we're thinking like Santa, and like a Santa train, or Christmas billboard cars, or snow scenery, snow plows, people ice skating, holiday lighting, holiday decorations, things along those lines. So basically, and the big caveat is anything you can think of that would rope into this, into the general categories that we're talking about here. And then we'll loop back around, and in February we'll go over oddities, aliens. One of my favorite things that I've seen over the years is a UFO dealership. That was one of the coolest things, and I wish I could track that guy down and get some more photos and input on what he did. But steampunk, a jackalope skull on the front of your locomotive. Some like non-prototypical trains, or some like weird things on depressed center flat cars, those sorts of things. So those are our challenges, and at some point I'll get those up on the New Tracks website so everybody can take a good look at those and can think ahead a little bit and say, oh, I've got this I've been working on. Let me see what I can do to finish it up in time for this challenge or that challenge. So that's where, and that looks like it's it. So there we go.
Beautiful job, Chris. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks everybody that participated. That was, I think this was a really good discussion we had tonight. So
I think so. It's exactly what you and I had hoped about a long time ago, Chris.
Exactly.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it's time to award the prize winner of the Walters Cornerstone Model Company House that Gary Shugold is going to be building for us starting in September. So in order to win, you got to be here. And if you are the winner, then you need to send me an email with the mailing address where Walters will send you the kit. So my email is Jim Kellow, JimKellow at New Tracks Modeling, NEWTRACKS Modeling, MODELING.com. And if you have any confusion or anything, I'll be glad to say it again. But I need to get the email from you to confirm that you're here when we award the model or the winner. And then I can pass that on to Walter so they can send you the kit. So best of luck to everybody. And Phil, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, so this was done very non-scientifically. I basically took a shot of the share and did a random number generator that generated row and column, and added in the folks on the YouTube. And the winner was Tony Dixon, who is actually on YouTube tonight. So Tony Dixon is our HO winner.
Tony, are you here?
He's on YouTube.
Well, he can send me an email.
Yep, I'm going to send him. And so let me also just put up a picture here of. Let me see if I've got it here. I thought I had it up, but now I don't think it is. There it is. Okay, here we go. So this is actually the kit that is the giveaway. And congratulations to Tony Dixon, who won the company house 2-pack kit, which I think I think Gary is going to build and show us how to build, right, Jim?
Yep, and he's going to make it look like it's an all wood kit with a stone foundation. It's going to be great. It is going to be a fantastic model when he's through with it. And I think it may well increase the interest in plastic models when you see the techniques that Gary is going to be using to make this model. It's just, you know, from what I've seen of his work before, it's going to be fantastic. So Tony, you need to send me an email, sir. Because if I don't get the email, Tony, we're going to have to get a new winner. Or Phil, can you verify that Tony is still there? Or?
He usually has a lot of internet connection issues, so he may be slow, but he's trying, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, if you'll just put something in the chat function on YouTube.
Asked in chat and YouTube, and he hasn't responded, so he may have left. Do you want to redo it, or?
Yep, let's redo it. You got to be present to win it.
Okay, hang on. We'll try it again. And this time it came up with Alan Rogers.
Good gosh. Well, at least it wasn't Jim Kello.
Well, that actually came up once, but I threw you out.
Well, I am definitely here, and I'm glad to win that. That's cool.
Send me an email with the address you want to use.
I sure will. I'll do it right away.
Thank you. Alan, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And honest to gosh, guys, this wasn't rigged, I promise you. All right, well, that's our show this evening. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. There was a lot of good information passed on. It's exactly the kind of show that we always hope for. I know it's a little long. Do you know that we've been here almost 3 hours, guys? And no one's been dragging their feet. I mean, it was just the interest that was shown. So thank you all so much. We have a caboose ending for you, and hope to see you next week. This is Steve Sherrill's layout, by the way. And we could use other pictures of other people's layouts. This is the last one that we have. So we have one more caboose for next week that we got off of YouTube, but we sure would like to show some other people's layout. And that's the end of our show for tonight. Thank you all so much for staying as long as you did. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And most important, I hope you learned something. Till next week, happy modeling.